But one of the best way to actually deal with this awkwardness and strangeness when you're dealing with family members, they see you with your fringes, they see you with your veil, they see you doing all these things, and you look so strange to them. Let me tell you one of the best way to deal with this strangeness. If you keep quiet, that's what makes it bad. Let me tell you, it's better to just tell them what's going on. Tell them that you are a lawkeeper. Whatever you're doing, whether your fringes, the Sabbath, whatever you're doing, try to tell them that it's in the scripture. Tell them that it's in the scripture. That you're doing what you're doing because you're following the Bible. Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, that will remove so much pressure on you. You will feel very good after you do that. Because if they see you and you look so strange, you dress very strange, you act, to them, you act strange. You look strange. And you keep quiet. You don't say anything. Then, of course, it makes it worse. So the best thing is to tell them what you're doing. I am a lawkeeper. I follow the scripture. Whatever it is that you're pointing out, whether your fringes, you show them that Christ was wearing fringes. That's the way you have those kind of conversations, civil conversation. You don't need to argue with them. You don't need to quarrel with them. Just have a civil conversation. Explain what you're doing. I'm telling you, after you're done explaining it to family members, you are going to feel like so much stuff was lifted away from you. You will no longer look strange. And one of the questions they are going to ask you is, what church do you go to? I'm telling you, they're going to ask you that. They are not asking you this question because they care. Absolutely not. They will ask you, what Bible translation do you read? They might ask you, who is your pastor? They are not asking you these questions because they care. They are asking you these questions because they think that you're weird. They think you're weird. They think you're crazy. They think you've joined a cult. So they're just trying to find out. They're asking you these questions to confirm what they have already decided about you. I'm talking about your children. I'm talking about your brother, your sister, your nephew, your cousin, your mother, your father. When you are a lawkeeper, your family will think you're crazy. So when they ask you, what Bible translation do you read? It's not because they care. They don't give a damn Bible translation you read. When they ask you, what church do you go to? What church do you belong to? It's not because they care. No. When they ask you, who is your pastor? It's not because they care. They're asking you these questions because they already think that you're crazy. And they're asking you this question. So in that way, they will say, aha, that makes sense. Now I see why she's so crazy. Now I see why he's good. Somebody actually did this to me about 2 weeks ago. We were having a conversation. I was explaining things to them. And they were disagreeing with me. They were telling me that we don't have to follow those laws anymore. Those laws are for the olden times. Those laws are for the old. I was like, no, it's in your Bible. It's in the Bible. We have to follow it. And then they asked me, what church do you go to? I told them that it's irrelevant. I don't have to answer you. It's not necessary right now. Maybe later on I will tell you. It's not necessary. Like they keep on insisting. No, tell me, what church do you go to? I told them, I don't have a specific church that I go to. I just gather together with brothers and sisters and I worship with them. I gather together, I worship with them. They asked me, what church do you go to? Do you go to the White Garment Church? White Garment Church? I said, no, I don't go to there's a church that they called, one church that they mentioned, a denomination in somewhere in West Africa. I have never gone to that church. I've never gone to that church. They mentioned it. They said, do you go to that church? They asked me this question because of what I was saying. So they asked me, do you go to this particular church? I said, no, I've never been to that church. And I've never been to that church, truly. They keep on pushing to find out, what church do you go to then? Which one do you go to? What? I said, I don't go to any specific church. Okay? I just gather together with brothers and sisters and we worship together. And this person goes on to say, oh, okay, now that makes sense why you talk the way you talk. They are the ones who are feeding you all this stuff. This is what this person told me. That church you go to, they are the ones who are feeding you all this stuff. And as soon as they said this, I became angry. I was like, no, stop saying that. That is absolutely nonsense. That's not true. And you're disrespecting me. I'm telling you what I believe. I'm telling you what I do. I'm telling you what's in the Bible. You're telling me that I was being taught these things? No. The reason why I'm very offended, because what you said is not true. When you say that this church that I'm going to is feeding me this stuff, that's not true. And I feel very offended. And I let them know this. They started apologizing. They were saying, okay, I'm sorry, whatever. I made it known to them. No, you're wrong. I'm not doing these things because the church is teaching me these things. No. Now, you are the one that choose to believe that they are done away with. I don't believe that. So immediately, they began to apologize. And you have to do that. So one of the ways to lift up this burden from yourself, because that burden is going to be there. I don't know who you're dealing with. Maybe you're dealing with your children. Maybe it's your brother, your sister, your cousin, your nephew. All of us have relatives. We all have relatives who do not keep the law. And as soon as they see you, they see that you're different. They're going to notice your dressing. They're going to notice the way you act. They're going to notice these things. My brother, my sister, I'm telling you that one of the ways to handle this is to be upfront. If you have opportunity to talk and they ask you whatever, explain what you are doing. Explain to them that we are the Israelites and that we have to keep God's law. Christ told us to keep God's law, and we are supposed to keep it forever. Just your goal when you're speaking to them, please listen closely. Listen to this. Listen, my brothers and sisters. When you talk to your relative about this thing that I'm talking about right now, your goal is not to convince them. Don't try to talk to them in a way so that they can listen and follow you and start keeping the law. No. Your goal is to explain what you are doing. It doesn't matter whether they believe you. It doesn't matter whether they accept it. It doesn't matter. What I want you to do is to let out what's in your heart. Let it out. So let's say you haven't seen your cousin in a long time. You have not seen your cousin in a long time. And then all of a sudden you see your cousin. Now you have your beard, you have your robe, you have your fringes. Of course, you look different. They will be looking at you like you're crazy. So any chance that you guys get to talk, explain to them what you are doing. If opportunity does not come up, bring it up. If you have a good opportunity to talk, tell them about your new life. Tell them how you feel now. And then from there, you explain to them what you are doing. This is why I wear this thing. It's in the scripture. God told us to wear these fringes. Christ wore fringes. Do you remember that story about the woman with the issue of blood? He or she will say, yes, I remember that story. He say, yeah, this is what she touched. So what I would like you to do, if possible, to explain to them what you are doing. Remember, when you're talking to your child, your son, your daughter, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your mother, whoever that relative is, remember that your goal is not to convert them. That's not what you're trying to do at that very moment. There's time for everything. There is time for everything. If you're explaining to somebody what you are doing, then go ahead and explain what you're doing. Don't talk about it in a way to convince them, because they will not listen, they will not be converted. Your goal at that very moment is to explain yourself. This is why I'm now wearing robe. Start a conversation. Explain these things to them. They will not say much. They will mostly listen to you because you're explaining why you're doing what you're doing. Explain why you dress the way you dress, why you no longer keep Sabbath on Saturday, why you no longer keep Sabbath on Sunday. Explain these things to them. Why am I asking you to do this? Because I know that as soon as you explain it to that person, as soon as you explain yourself to them, there's so much a burden that will be lifted from you. You're going to feel much better. Because if you have a cousin or nephew or brother or sister or mother or father or a child, son, daughter, if you have a relative who used to know you, but now your life have changed. Now you are a lawkeeper. And then you guys haven't seen in a long time. Or they see that your life have changed. They can see that your life have changed, but they don't know why it changed. They will simply assume that you're crazy and you join the cult. You are a human being. You know this. I remember one time I was with some relatives years ago. I'm telling you, I didn't want to leave. It was late at night. I had to go, but I didn't want to leave. I have a bunch of relatives in a room, in a living room. We were there. We talked about the Bible. One of my relatives, the wife, started arguing. Her point is that it doesn't matter how you dress or whatever. She started arguing about the wearing trousers and everything. After we had that conversation, of course they won. They won. She was talking. She was very, you know, she was very dominant. Trying to say that, oh, it doesn't matter what you wear. It doesn't matter. Blah 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 blah. And at some point, there's time for everything. Sometimes you're not even in a mood to argue with anybody, right? You just ignore them. So after that encounter in that living room, I needed to leave. It was about 10 at night. It was about 10 at night. Do you know that I supposed to leave, but I didn't want to leave. I felt so bad. I was scared to leave that room. I was scared to leave that room. Why was I scared? Because I was worried about what they would say about me when I leave. I know that when I leave, they would talk about me. That was what was making me not to leave. I didn't want to leave the room. I know that as soon as I say, okay, good night, bye-bye, good night, bye. As soon as I leave that room and go downstairs to leave, I knew that they would start talking about me. They would start saying, oh, we don't know what happened to him. He's crazy. He has joined a cult. In fact, they do say this. They say it. My own mother's sister actually said it. She said that I joined a cult. That the cult that I joined was one of those cults. When you die, the congregation will take all your property or whatever. She said something like that. I have never discussed Bible for 1 minute with this woman, but that was the perception that she has. Well, you, my brothers and sisters, I'm here with you. I worship with you. So you are the judge. If you are the one to know if I'm in a cult or not. Because I have the other congregation that I worship with, the physical congregation, the other congregation, but we pretty much do the same thing that we do here. It's all about the law. It's all about the law. That's what I stand for. It's all about the law. If it's not about the law, count me out. I'm not going to be involved. It's all about the law. It's not about Jesus. It's not about anything. It's all about being obedient to the word of the Most High. That's just where I stand. That's where I'm going to be until I join my ancestors. So, it's very important to express yourself to your relatives. Once you explain, because look at it this way, and you will see that what I'm telling you is the truth. Just think about it this way. Look at it this way. My brothers and sisters, if you do not define yourself, other people will define you. Other people will define you. If you do not explain yourself, if you do not explain what you're doing, other people will do it for you, and they will not do a good job. If you do not represent yourself, someone else will represent you. But they don't know you. They don't know why you do what you do. That's why you have to take any opportunity you have to explain yourself to your relatives or your friends. It's important. If you get the opportunity, explain. If you're going to be dealing with somebody, because there are certain things that you do that they are going to be seeing, right? They're going to be seeing those things. And because they are spiritually blind, they will not understand what you're doing. And if you keep quiet and you do not explain yourself, then they are going to have the perception they have about you is going to be their own perception. Okay, so that's not good. This is why law keepers are so stressed out. This is why it's so difficult for law keepers to deal with deal with family members, because what we normally do is that we keep to ourselves. We keep to ourselves. We don't explain what we do, and it's not even easy to explain. What I'm telling you right now is easier said than done. It's not that easy to explain yourself, but you have to try, because I know that once you do it, you have represented yourself. Now, whether or not they believe you, that's a different thing. But there's definitely something that happens to you when you explain to yourself. Oh, this is, you can even start a conversation. I discovered something new. I am a new person. And they're like, why? Why are you a new person? You're like, yeah, because I now realize who we are. Always start with who we are. Always start with who we are, my brothers and sisters. It's important for you to mention our identity whenever you're talking to your relative about what you're doing. If you're going to tell somebody that you're keeping the law, please, I'm pleading with you. I'm begging you. If you want to be successful in explaining yourself, don't just start saying that you're keeping the law. Don't do it. It's not going to work. Why? Because we have been taught that we don't have to keep the law. So it's always important for you to start with our identity. Just tell them stuff. You are telling them things. You're not discussing with them. You're telling them about yourself. So when you're telling them about yourself, they don't need to speak. Okay? They're supposed to listen. So don't try to start having conversation when you're doing this. It's not a conversation. It is you expressing yourself. It is you introducing your new self. Explain what you're doing. Don't care whether they believe you or not. It doesn't matter. Explain why you do what you do. Very important. And of course, this is something that you do to those that you love, those that you care, those that you have a relationship with. I don't care much about explaining what I'm doing to some relative that I don't really care that much. I have relatives that I don't have to explain anything to them. But for me, I'm like a light. There's nobody that come around me that doesn't hear about the law. There's nobody. If you are around me, I do not talk without talking about the law. I don't. Like most of the stuff, even you can tell me about football. You can tell me about soccer. And within the next 2 minutes, we're talking about the law. In one way or the other, I will find a way to talk about the law. I don't like that's just who I am right now. That's who I am. Somebody told me some time ago, the person told me, they said something like this. They said, can we talk about something else? I mean, you're always talking about the Bible, always talking about the Bible. I said to the person, I cannot censor myself. I don't want a situation where when we are talking, I'll be censoring myself, so in that way we can talk. This is who I am. This is who I am. This is how I talk. If that's not fine with you, then that's fine. It's okay. But I don't want a situation where I'll be censoring myself. Like if I want to say something, I'm like, no, I can't say it right now because we're not supposed to talk about the law right now. That's not who I am. I explained this to this person because most of the time I talk about the law. Most of the time. It's hard for me to have a conversation and that conversation doesn't pivot back to the law. It's hard for you to mention something that is going on in the world or something that happened. I will tell you, I will take it back to the law. That's just who I am. So there are relatives that, of course, who you don't care much. You don't owe them anything. You don't have to explain anything to them. I'm talking about the relatives who you care about. If you have an opportunity, explain yourself. Explain why you do what you do. Explain it to them. When you do that, you have represented yourself. You have explained yourself. And if you do not do this, if you do not explain yourself, like as I said, somebody else is going to do it for you. That your relative is going to decide for themselves what you're doing. And I'm telling you, they are going to conclude that you have joined a cult. That's what they will conclude. Okay, that's what they will conclude. So when you're dealing with people, do not hesitate to explain yourself. Always start with who we are. Or you can even start that conversation by saying, oh my goodness, I'm very happy. I discovered that we're Israelite. I discovered that I'm an Israelite. I discovered that we have to keep the law as Israelite. You know, you don't have to go into much details. Just give them a preview. Just like give them like a quick overview of what you're doing. Just break it down quick. You can talk about this in 50 seconds, in 1 minute. Break it down, just point, we're Israelite, you know, we're supposed to keep the law, we are Israelites, you know, we disobeyed God, he rejected us, he scattered us around the world, you know, you just break it down and why you're keeping the law. Okay, this is why I dress now. I'm trying to dress like the Hebrews, you know, I'm trying to eat like the Hebrews. You know, I'm trying to do things like the Hebrews. I'm trying to follow the word of the Most High. So when you explain these things, you are going to feel very good about what you did. It's very important to do this. Very, very important. You know, if you have a social media, for those of you who are computer savvy, those of you who are on social media, Facebook or whatever social media you are on, use your phone. Stay in your room, inside your room, or somewhere around your house, wherever you feel comfortable. Put your phone somewhere. Put it down. Set your phone. Sit in front of your phone. Explain what you do. Express yourself. You do that and post that video on social media. If you're connected with your relatives, of course, they're going to see the video. So now what you're doing here is, I'm not going to say, use the word smart. The word smart is a Gentile word. I'm going to use the word wisdom. What you're doing is wise. What you're doing is that you are expressing yourself. You are explaining, you're moving forward to explain yourself. It's a preemptive strike. You're explaining yourself before anybody could explain you. That's what you're doing. That's wise. That is wise, you know. So if you're not on the social media, if you're not into that kind of stuff, that's fine. If whenever you have a relative or a friend or co-worker or anybody that you care to know what you're doing, you know, start a conversation. Explain to them what you're doing. In that way, they will know that you chose to do this. You're not just part of some cult or something. You are actually following the scriptures. Whenever you explain yourself and express yourself, explain what you're doing, it's always much better that way. Instead of having someone else explain you and express what you're doing and explain what you're doing, no, that's not a good thing. That is not a good thing. So all praises to our Heavenly Father. I give the Most High all the glory and all the honor. I pray to the Most High that when you do this, like as I said, that burden will be lifted from you. You know, because the reality of the matter is that we all have relatives. We all have brothers and sisters and children and mothers and fathers and cousins and nephews. We all have relatives who do not keep the law. And, you know, the reality of the matter is that we have to deal with them. We have to deal with these relatives. That's just a fact. We're not going to reject them, disown them, condemn them just because they're not keeping the law. Of course not. We deal with them wisely. You know, we communicate with them wisely. You know, we keep on praying for them. We keep on trying to be a light. That's one of the reasons why it's important for you to explain what you're doing. If you keep quiet, that's going to look very strange and weird. They see that your dressing have changed, but they don't know why. They don't know any church that dresses like that. They see that the way you eat have changed. They see all these changes in you. They see that you're wearing your veil. They see that you have grown your beard. They see all these little changes that you're making, but they don't know why. And you yourself have kept quiet. That's not a good thing. Because whether you like it or not, they will come to a conclusion about what you're doing. They will come to a conclusion. And you do not want to be left out of that conclusion. You want to be in forefront. You want to be holding that mic. If anybody is going to explain you and explain what you're doing, it has to be you. You have to hold that mic. That's why it's very important for you to do that preemptive strike. If you see a cousin, a nephew, a child, a brother, a sister, a daughter, whoever that person is, that you see them, they don't know what you're doing, start that conversation. Any chance you get, tell them that you're happy. Or are you not happy? Are you not happy that you're keeping the law? Are you not happy that you know that you're an Israelite? Of course you're happy. Tell them you're happy. You're so happy, your life has changed. They will ask you, what do you mean your life have changed? You're like, well, I discovered that we're Israelite. I discovered that we have to keep the law. And ever since I started keeping the law, my life have changed. Explain yourself. Most of the time, they're going to be quiet. They'll be listening because they will find it very interesting. Believe it or not, they will find it very interesting what you're saying. And this is a good thing because now you have explained yourself. Don't be like me. My mother's sister, I have never discussed anything with her about the scriptures. Never. Haven't seen her in years. This woman told someone else that I am part of a cult. I never discussed anything with her. I never explained myself. Still haven't explained myself to her till today because we're very far away from each other. We usually talk on the phone like once every 2 years or something. So, but what I actually heard with my ear is that she said that I am part of a cult. It's not just any cult. It's this weird and strange cult. What am I doing? I'm just trying to follow the Bible. I'm just trying to follow the scripture. What else am I doing? What else am I following? All I'm trying to do is to follow the scripture. People followed the scripture in the past. Were they part of a cult? So that's one of the reasons why I try to keep to myself. Because the drama and the awkwardness, the weirdness, the strangeness that comes along when you deal with family members is just too much and stressful. I just keep to myself. The social gathering, family social gathering that we used to have in the past, I used to be part of. I don't go to those things anymore. I don't. I just don't. I have my only sister. I have 3 sisters. 3. 2 of them died in the 90s. The only sister I have, somebody came to marry her. Someone came to marry her. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be part of that because I know that that man cannot be her husband. I told our mother. I sat her down and I explained to her, I said, I cannot be part of this. I cannot be online showing people, I don't want to use the word teaching. I don't like using the word teaching that I'm teaching. I can't be online showing people about biblical marriage, telling people that they cannot have a husband because they lost their virginity and they have been with multiple men. So now they are defiled and no man can marry them. I cannot be showing people that. And then I turn around and attend the wedding of my own sister who is in the same situation. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't. I cannot be part of that. I did not even allow her bride price to be paid in my house. I am the eldest brother. I didn't allow, I was like, I didn't even allow that. I didn't even want to get involved. I didn't even, on the day that they came to pay her bride price, I just left. I went to the congregation. I went to our congregation. I opened the door and I just sat in there. I just sat in there in the congregation. I sat there until at night. I now went back. I'm telling you, I didn't have anything to do. I just took the keys. I walked to the congregation, opened the door. I went and sat there because I didn't want to go sit in my own sister's wedding where they're doing her bride price. I didn't want to go sit there. I'm telling you, this happened recently. This happened recently. I went to the congregation. I opened the door. I just sat in there. I sat there until, I sat there for a while, until evening. Then I went back because I didn't want to be part. How can I be online? How can I be teaching, showing people about biblical marriage? And my own blood sister is in the same situation. Then I will be part of somebody coming to marry her. When I know that the person cannot marry her, I will go to her wedding. And then tomorrow I'll go back online and tell people that, oh, nobody can marry you because you lost your virginity. You've been with multiple men. So now nobody can marry you. But my own blood sister is in the same situation. And I go on to be in her wedding. How can I do such a thing? That's evil. That is evil. If I do such a thing, that's not a good thing. So I decided that I'm not going to be part of that. That was so awkward, I'm telling you. That was so weird. That was so weird. I'm telling you, my brothers and sisters, it was very strange. I'm telling you. Because even as I was leaving that day, as I was walking away, somebody asked me something like, where are you going? Aren't you going to go to your sister's bride price? Like, I think one of the people in the village asked me that question in our village when I walked by in front of her store. She's like, aren't you going to go to your sister's? It was so strange. It was so awkward. But am I going to stand there and start explaining Deuteronomy chapter 22 to her? Of course not. That would take half a day to explain all this biblical marriage stuff to her. So I avoided my own sister's bride price because we pay bride. Before you marry a woman, you pay a bride price. So somebody came to pay her bride price. I didn't get involved. I'm like, no, I can't get in because I know I cannot stop what they're about to do. I cannot stop the person from marrying her. I cannot stop her from wanting to be his wife. I can't. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to get involved. I cannot get involved in this. What they're about to do is not biblical. So I didn't get involved, you know? So, but why am I telling you this story? Because that was one of the most awkward moments in my life. If I wasn't around, if I traveled, that's different. But I was around. There was crowd. People were invited. Food was cooked. They had lots of food. They prepared stuff. People were invited. Strangers, people were invited to come. And they came. But me, I was not there. I deliberately skipped it. I just went to our congregation. I opened the door. I just sat in there. I just sat there until it was late at night. Then because what I wanted to do is to avoid the whole thing. By the time I come back, they were already done. It was very strange. It was very awkward. If there's a word for awkward, that was it. It was so awkward for me, that your only sister, her bride price is being paid and you were not there because of Deuteronomy chapter 22. People are going to say, are you crazy? Which Bible are you reading? So what I did was that initially, I already knew that I didn't want to be involved. I knew that already. I knew that I wasn't going to get involved. But at some point, it now came to my mind to explain it to the family why I'm not going to get involved. Because what I wanted to do is just keep quiet and not go. And I was so happy that that idea came to my mind, that wisdom came to my mind to explain to them why I wasn't going to get involved. So I sat my mother down and I broke it down. Look, what she's about to do is what I preach against. I cannot tell other people that they cannot get married because they have been defiled. But then I turn around and support my sister to go and do exactly the same thing I'm preaching against. I can do it. I can't. And it was so good because it was so good that I explained it. So that helped in terms of that awkwardness. That helped because now I explain why. It would have been far worse if I had gotten up that day and just left. And they don't know why. And that was what I was actually going to do. That was what I was going to do, to just not get involved and not even explain why. But later on, the idea came for me to explain why, and I explained to them why I cannot get involved. I can't. I will never support her wedding because I know that the man marrying her is not her husband. I know that. I also know that I cannot stop them. You know, she's not a little girl. She already had a child who is like 5 to 6 years old. She already had that child with another man already. So she's not like a little girl I can say, oh, that guy cannot marry you and that's it. No, I can't say that to her. It doesn't matter what I say. She's going to do whatever she wants to do. You know? So I'm like, okay, if I cannot stop it, then I'm not going to get involved. So these are the things that we have to deal with. This is my story. I know you have your own story. You have your own awkward situation with family members. The point I'm trying to make here is to explain yourself, express yourself. Very, very important. Very, very good. Express yourself. We tend to keep quiet. We, law keepers, when we're dealing with people, we tend to be quiet. We tend to not explain what we do because that is the default position. The default position is to just fall back to being silent. And it's very convenient. It's very easy because you don't have to say anything. But what happens is that a lot of damage gets done. What happens is that if you keep quiet, your cousin is going to explain what you're doing to your nephew. Your nephew is going to be worrying. Why is she dressing this way? Why is he dressing this way? And your cousin is going to have to explain to your nephew what you're doing. The problem is that your cousin doesn't know what you're doing. Your cousin is a Christian. He has no idea what you're doing. Do you really want your cousin to explain what you're doing to your nephew? No. So as a lawkeeper, you need to keep your eyes open, be aware of this. Whenever you're dealing with family members, whenever you're dealing with anybody, public relation, public relation, public relation. If you get opportunity, explain what you're doing. And always remember to start with identity, who we are. That you now find out that we are Israelites and that we have to keep God's law. Remember, you are not preaching. You're simply expressing yourself. You're simply explaining why you're doing what you're doing. Once you lay this out, once you express yourself, once you explain to yourself, once you do this, two things are going to happen, which is good things. Two good things are going to happen. One, you will feel like a weight has been lifted off of you because you explained yourself. Two, it makes it a lot more difficult for the person you're talking to have a negative view of you. Why? Because you have done that preemptive strike. You have gone ahead to explain yourself before they will start thinking of all these weird and strange things about you. You have already explained yourself before they will start thinking of all those things. This is such a good thing. What I'm explaining to you is such a beautiful thing. Very simple thing to do. And it's going to be relieving stress off of you. Imagine there's a family gathering. Imagine you show up. I'm going to use two examples. Imagine you show up. You're wearing your dress. You're wearing your veil. You're wearing your fringes. You have your son. Your son is wearing his beard. Your son is wearing a robe. Your son is wearing fringes. You guys already look different. That's a fact. The rest of your cousins, the rest of your nephews, the rest of these people in that gathering, they're all dressing like, they dress like everyone else. Tight jeans, short skirt, breasts hanging out everywhere. Like, you know how people dress? You and your son, you are set apart. Anybody that sees you guys know that you dress differently. That's a fact. Now, it will be a mistake, not really a mistake, but if you stay in that gathering and after staying in that gathering, you didn't say anything, it's not easy for you to say something because it depends on the gathering. You can't just pick up a mic and start explaining yourself. I'm talking about anybody that you speak to, anybody that you have one-on-one conversation, try and explain to them what you are doing. Because guess what? Let's say you are in a family gathering and it's a serious family gathering. That means that you cannot stand up and express yourself. There are certain gatherings that you cannot do that, depending on what the reason for gathering, right? But if you get to sit close to one of your relatives and you guys have a very good conversation, and you yourself also threw in, one of the things you added in that good conversation is that you added why you're doing what you're doing. You expressed yourself. Guess what? You and your son might leave that gathering. Somebody might start talking about you. That's your cousin or your nephew that you explain to what you're doing will stand up and be like, no, 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 that's not a cult. No. They will defend you because you gave them the information to do that, because you expressed yourself, you explained yourself. Nobody can advocate for you more than yourself. Nobody can speak for you more than yourself, especially in a wicked world where we have been deceived into believing that we don't have to keep the law. That's why it's so important. There was a travel that I did, a long distance travel, and I had to drive. It was the Feast of Tabernacle. Almost all of us in the car were wearing white. Almost all of us, including the children. We were all wearing white. Huh. After that traveling, after I went on that journey, I decided that I will never travel again without wearing my robe. Never. I will never drive on long distance without wearing my robe, white robe. Because as we were traveling, the military on the street, the local people, all the checkpoints, more than 30 checkpoints we passed on our way. Most of them were very friendly. One of the military asked us, how do I join your church? How do I join you guys? Most of the checkpoints, as soon as we pull up, they let us go. They were exploiting other people, checking their papers and collecting money from them. That's what they do on the streets in Africa, on the highways. That's what the military do in our land, because these are people that came from a foreign land. I'm not going to get into that. Deuteronomy chapter 28 is happening. It's happening to us. So we go through all that stuff. But I realized that because of the white garment that we were wearing, white robes, that almost all of us, men and women, children in that car, almost every checkpoint that we came across. Usually when I drive on a long distance like that, I keep some money with me so I can give to the police on the highway. I give the money, the police and the military that we see on checkpoint. I almost did not spend a dime. Because as soon as we pull up, they look at us, they look into the car, they see all these people wearing white, they let us go. They might make, like, oh, you guys would like to join you guys, would like to join your church, blah, blah, blah. We just laugh and we just keep going. And after that, I'm like, I am never going to travel again without wearing my long robe, because there's glory in that robe. There's benefit to it. So we went through village. The road was broken. We drove inside a village. We were encountering a bunch of, young boys mounting checkpoints, collecting money in those villages. Most of them, as soon as they see us, they see those white, they're like, yeah, let them go. They just open the thing and we just pass. And every one of us in that car noticed what was going on. Me, myself, decided that I'm not going to travel again without wearing that white robe. So, we know why we're doing what we're doing. Our family members don't know. Okay? People that keep the law will be demonized. The Most High said it in Jubilees chapter 1. Those that keep the law will be oppressed, persecuted. That's what we're going through. What I'm giving you here today is simply wisdom. Simple steps you can take. You will not always get the opportunity to express yourself. Not always. You will not always get the opportunity to explain to somebody why you're doing what you're doing. But any chance you get, do it. Don't think that it doesn't matter. It does matter because we're human beings. You have feelings. You have feelings. I have feelings. And we don't feel very good when somebody is talking bad about us. I don't know about you, but I don't like it. When someone is talking bad about me, I don't like it, especially if it's not true. I don't like it. So I'm going to express myself. Any opportunity I get, I'm going to explain what I'm doing. Man, I felt so good when I explained this stuff to my mother. I felt so good. I explained to her exactly what I'm doing. I explained to her exactly why I'm here, what I'm doing, everything. I broke it down and it felt so good afterwards. Because now she knows that I'm not crazy. The same thing you have to do for your children. Now, of course, there's time for everything. You're not just going to start talking. When you have conversation with somebody, the moment might present itself where you see opportunity, you just explain what you're doing. You're also like a witness. You're also witnessing to them. Explain to them why they have to do it, whatever. Your main goal is to explain to yourself. Who knows? Maybe after you explain what you're doing, they might start asking you questions. They might become interested. Your focus is going to be on the law. Remember, 2 points. Always start with our identity, that you discovered who we are. Start with that. And then you go into the law. We have to keep the law. After you explain yourself and they want to argue with you, do not argue. Don't argue. Because they will most likely argue with you. Don't do it. If you're talking to your son, your daughter, your brother, your sister, your nephew, your cousin, whoever you're talking with, if it goes into argument, forget it. If they start arguing with you, that's it. I mean, there's no way. There's no way that somebody is going to be arguing with you about keeping the law. And then they'll be like, oh, damn, I see what you're saying. You're so right. No, it doesn't happen most of the time. Because now it's an argument. They don't want to lose the argument. It's important to express yourself as a lawkeeper, not just to family members, but to outsiders. Whenever you're going to deal with somebody, it's a public relation campaign. Speaking for yourself, expressing yourself, representing yourself, explaining yourself at the right time. You're not going to meet somebody. You're not going to go to look for a job. You walk into an office. Hi, my name is Jeremiah. I'm a lawkeeper. I found that I'm an Israelite. I'm keeping the law. This thing I'm wearing over here is called fringes. God told us to wear it. Christ was wearing it. Blah, 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 blah. No, that's not the right time. There's time for everything. I'm not going to tell you exactly when to start talking. You are going to figure it out. When that time comes, you're going to know. If somebody comes to your house, yeah, that's good. Your relative come to your house. There's nothing wrong with that. Your relatives can come to your house. You can go to their house. Just make sure that you don't eat anything that you're not supposed to eat. If they come to your house, you have more control of what is being cooked in your house. When you go to somebody's house, you don't have any control on what is being cooked there. So, you just have conversation. Explain to yourself as in conversation. It's important to do that. So no more being silent. Okay? No more just, keeping the law, loving Yah, doing all this stuff, but you never explain to your family what you're doing. Please don't do that. Things are going to be much, much better if you explain yourself, express yourself. You're going to feel much better. And they will understand you. And this will prevent you from hearing those rumors. Because when they start gossiping about you, when they start talking about you, eventually you're going to hear it. And when you hear it, you're not going to feel good. You don't want to be like me. When I went to my relatives, and it was time for me to go, I didn't want to leave because I was so scared. I was so worried that if I leave, they will start talking about me. But that was years ago. You can't stop people from talking about you. People are going to talk about you. You can't control what people say about you. People will say whatever they want to say. Like it says in Matthew chapter 5. It tells you people are going to say stuff about you. Just like they did the prophets. People are going to say all manner of things about you. But don't worry. Don't worry about it. This is the way they spoke about those that came before you. Matthew chapter 5, from verse 10. It tells you, blessed are those which are persecuted for righteousness' sake. We know that righteousness is the law. Righteousness is the law. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. Yeshua goes on to tell you that people are going to talk about you. People will talk about you. He said, don't worry about it. This is the way they spoke about those that came before you. What we're doing here is to do our part, minimize damage. There is no negative thing that will come out of this if you do it. No negative. It's positive. You control the narrative. You control what is being said about you. You express yourself. If you have a social media, you can write stuff there. You can explain yourself there. Like as I said, we have relatives, we can't get rid of them. You don't have to get rid of your relatives. You don't have to disown them just because they're not keeping the law. No, we have ancestors that have relatives that didn't keep the law. So we're not going to disown our relatives, but we will deal with them with wisdom. So all praises to our Heavenly Father. Does anybody have any question, my brothers and sisters?
I don't have a question, brother. Can you hear me, Brother Tobiah? Because this
Yes.
computer. Oh, great. I don't have a question, but I did hear you use the word cult many times, saying that we were not a cult. We are one of the largest, smallest cults in the world. The word cult it derives from the word culture. We as Israelites are just coming back into being who we are, and that is the children of the Most High, the Israelites. When you look at that word, it's a relative small group of people with a peculiar or a particular way of life, okay, regarded by others as strange. We are the strangest people walking on earth today, okay? We look silly to them. We look unkempt probably to them. Our guys run around with some strange hair running off their faces, and women are running around with dresses with fringes on them. We have, coverings on our head. So yes, we are a cult. Let's be proud of our culture. That's what it's all about, people. We are a culture that stands out above all people. There is not a lot of us around. Those of you probably that are in America, you get to see some once in a while. We don't get to see any time. So when they see me, even if I get out of the car, if I'm in the dark, they see me. I am different. I am in a cult, and I tell them, yes, my culture is Israel. That's all I wanted to say. So that is what the word cult means. However, when people say it to you, they're saying it in a negative. It is negative, but it's positive for us. Let's use it and use it to the best of our ability, knowing now who we are and what we are. We are the royal family of the Most High. How many of us knew that we were royal? We didn't take on that royalty. We took on a negative name. Those of us that came from America, those of us that are in other lands, we thought we probably was a little bit better than Yehuda. But you know what? We're all the same. They see us as the same.
Okay. So I understand what you're saying. I absolutely understand what you're saying. And if you will recollect, if you would think back, I have spoken on culture before. That word cult is simply like when you say Yah. Yah is not his full name. Yah is just part of the full name. Or when you say Jeff, Jeff is from Jeffrey. Matt, Matt is from Matthew. Cult, cult is from culture. I think I've explained that before.
Yes.
The context of what I'm explaining to you right now, the point and the context is family. I understand what you're saying. We're not ashamed. We know what we're doing. We know exactly what we're doing. There's nobody here who is keeping the law that doesn't know what they're doing. Nobody is being forced to do it. You chose to do what you're doing. We know what's going on. We know that we know we have to keep the law. We know who we are. We understand these things. We understand, you know, we understand that when people say cult, they don't mean well. We understand that cult is a word that has been demonized. We understand that they are not saying nobody who loves you will say you're in a cult. Okay, we understand what's going on. Now, here's what I'm saying. If you have a cousin that you haven't seen in, say, 15 years, and you finally see that cousin for the very first time, your life has changed since the last time you saw them. You no longer dress the same way, you no longer eat the same way, and you finally see this cousin. You're not going to tell the cousin, hey, look at me, I'm proud, I'm a proud cultist. I'm in a cult. I'm so proud to be in a cult. They will be looking at you like, what is he talking about? What is she talking about? I mean, they've seen the changes that you made. They can clearly see what you're wearing. They see you. They see you. From the very first time they see you after such a long time, they see that there is a change. They don't know why. So you're not gonna just start telling them that you're in a cult and you're proud. I'm talking about families here. What I'm saying is that you will express yourself, explain to them why you're doing what you're doing, because the person that haven't seen you in a while, they are curious. They have questions in their mind. And what happens is that oftentimes we never talk about these things. We talk about family, we talk about the olden days, we talk about the good old days, we talk about all this stuff, we talk about everything. But we the law keepers, never say anything about what we're doing. Your cousin is looking at you, they know that something has changed. Your brother is looking at you, your sister is looking at you, they can see the changes. Most of the time, they will not ask you, what's going on? Why do you dress like that? Don't, how come you didn't go to church last Sunday? How come you, like I have a neighbor, I have a neighbor that calls me pastor. That's what they call me, pastor. But they also see that I do not go to church on Sunday. They see that sometimes on Wednesday, we have prayers on Wednesday, if Sabbath is on Wednesday. And sometimes she will ask me, I always tell her it's a long story. We need to sit down because I know that I cannot explain this to her as I'm driving out. If I'm coming back home or I'm driving out and I see her in front and she asks me, I can't just explain it. I was trying to schedule, I was trying to sit down. I knew it was better to sit down and explain these things to them. So you have to do it this way I explained. What am I saying? Have conversation. Have a normal conversation. If they don't ask you, start it up and simply express what you're doing. This is not something that you do for every relatives. This is for those that you care about. Because as soon as they see you and they see those changes, they are curious. Most of the time, they will not ask you. Rather, they will ask other relatives what you're doing. What I'm explaining to you, what I'm trying to get you to understand is that it is better for you to rather start that conversation. This is someone I'm talking about somebody you value their relationship. Yes, they are not a lawkeeper, but you guys are related. Instead of being quiet and not saying anything and allowing them to go back or to live with their curiosity, no, address their curiosity. I remember one time I picked somebody from the airport. I was wearing my fringes. I picked them from the airport. Later on, we started having conversation. And then this person told me that when they saw me with that fringes, they were like wondering, why is he wearing that thing? They later told me that that was what they were thinking. So when people see you, they see what you're doing, but they don't know why you're doing it. And oftentimes they will not ask you. They will not ask you. Oftentimes we, who are the law keepers, we keep quiet and we never say anything. That brother, that sister, whoever he is or she is, they will go and ask your other relatives. The other relatives will now explain you, express you, and define you. And oftentimes they start throwing the word cult and stuff like that. At this point, there's nothing you can do about it because somebody else have expressed you. Somebody have explained you. No, I'm saying that you, if you have opportunity, take charge of the narrative. Take charge of your identity. This is about you. We're talking about you. So take charge and explain yourself. That's why I say that nobody can explain yourself more than you. Again, let me say this again. I am not asking you to do this for every relatives you have. Of course not. These are people that you know that you guys are like close relatives. If I tell you how many hours I spent after so many years of being away from my mother, after so many years of being away, I didn't see her for years. Meanwhile, she was hearing about what I'm doing. She was hearing it. I remember, like, I think it was in 2012, 2012 or something. I ran into some people that I knew in the village. I was so shocked to see them, a couple, husband and wife. I saw them, I greeted them, and I regretted ever running into them. I should have avoided them. Because after I ran into them, we greeted and everything. These people now went back to the village. I think they told someone else. Eventually, the word came back to my mother that these people saw me and I looked like a madman. That was what they said. I looked crazy. I had fringes on my clothes. I have my beard. My beard was growing very rough. I am one of those men. I am one of those men that have rough beard when it was coming out. It looks really rough when it was coming out. The word, the report was that I I had to be mentally ill. That was how they described me. Now, that's not a good thing for a mother to hear. Your child that you haven't seen in a long time, somebody else travels and sees them and then come back and say that they saw your son and it looks like he is mentally ill. That's a horrible thing for a mother to hear. It is the same way that someone else, another relative, also went back and explained that it looks like I am in a cult. And they end up describing those kind of cult. So here you have this report going from people going back to my immediate relative. So when I finally, all praises to the Most High, when I finally I arrived back home in Africa or to Africa, when I finally had the opportunity, I spent hours. If you put all the time I spent together explaining to my mother what I'm doing, I am not crazy. Look at this chapter, look at this, look at that, look at this, look at that, look at this. If you put all the time I spent explaining myself to her, that's like hours. So now she knows I'm not crazy. As a matter of fact, after I explained what I'm doing to her, she actually started following to keep the Sabbath. She told me that she's doing it because she can see what I'm doing and she's doing it because of me. Now, personally, I don't like that. I don't want anybody to keep the law because of me. I want you to keep it because your creator wants you to keep it. But she wouldn't be joining to do some of these things if she thought I was crazy. The thing is that after all the rumors, after all the stuff she was hearing about me from different relatives, after all this stuff, at the end of the day, I had the opportunity to explain myself. And I was able to explain myself very well to her in details why I do what I do, why I keep the law, why I no longer follow Christianity, why I'm living my life according to the laws. I broke it down, I explained it, she understood it. It was very important to me to explain these things to her. I don't want my mother to be walking around thinking that her son is mentally ill because he's wearing that thing dangling on his clothes, because he doesn't shave his beard. Um, so I'm saying this because it is not every relatives that you would even want to waste your time expressing yourself. It has to be certain kind of relatives. Those who are not keeping the law, but you care about them. Those that you are close with. All I'm saying is that if you get opportunity to express yourself, start off that conversation. It's easy to start. Hey, I'm so happy. I'm very happy. My life has changed, as you can see. And they have seen it. My life has changed. They know what you're talking about. They can see that your life have changed. And then you explained. I found out that we're Israelite. I found out that we have to keep God's law. And ever since I started keeping those laws, my life have changed. You go on and express yourself however you want to express yourself. Again, remember what I said in the beginning. When you are done doing this, you are going to feel much better. I'm telling you, try it. You're going to feel much better. You know why? Because you've expressed yourself. You've expressed yourself. You're going to feel much better towards that person. And it makes it difficult for someone else to come and convince that person about, you're doing this or you're doing that. And the third thing that might happen, the person that you express yourself to might actually become interested and want to learn more. It is better to do this than to not do it. If we simply just start keeping the law and we simply avoid all our relatives, or even when we deal with them, we never bring up the issue of keeping the law, we never bring up the issue of expressing why we're doing it, that's not good. The reality is that people do see you. They have seen the changes in your life. They don't know why. Why then would you allow someone else to come and explain that? Nobody can explain it more than you. That's all I'm saying. Okay? So it's a very simple thing. This is something that you should have as a conversation. You know, it's not a big deal. Have it as a conversation. Sometimes I meet people, I don't like to tell them that I'm keeping the law. Yes, actually, there are people that I know right now that I deliberately started a relationship with them, but I'm still not telling them that I'm keeping the law. Because if I tell them, they're going to misunderstand it. So I'm waiting for the right time to now explain it to them. Because of the way we've been trained by the Europeans. Yeah, as soon as you talk about keeping God's law, that's it. You lose them. That's it. No, they don't want to hear it. So in that case, what I personally have decided to do, personally, is to send them those things, those laws, those Igbo culture. Because these people I'm talking about, they are Igbos. These are Igbo people. And what I want to do is to slowly get them out of the church that they're in. They're in Catholic church. These people are in Catholic church. If I come and start saying that we have to keep the law, I will lose them. So some of them, I even avoid talking about the Bible completely. One of them was telling me the other day, why don't you shave your beard? That beard doesn't look good on you. Why don't you shave your beard? I was just laughing. I just, I didn't say anything. Because if I say something, we'll start arguing. So what I wanted to do is to send them something to check it out, to read that thing. You can do the same thing. So I think you should keep this point in mind also. And the point is this: just because you tell them doesn't mean they're going to accept. That's why I told you, you're not telling them this for them to accept. You're simply expressing yourself. So if I look at certain situations, sometimes I decide, if I really care about someone and I want them to start keeping the law, then I'm not going to come and tell them everything in one day. I want to bring it out one after the other. And it's something you can use a video. If you can find a powerful video that talks about keeping the law or whatever, you can send it to them, tell them to watch it, that you would like to talk with them or discuss it, have them watch it. In my case, I'm dealing with Igbo people in this particular case that I'm talking about. So I'm going to send them that thing that I put together about the Igbo culture found in the Bible. So as soon as they read it, I'm going to send it to them and say, can you go through this? I would like us to discuss it when you're done. So when they go through it, they will see all the Igbo traditions that are found in the scriptures, our tradition, our culture that are found in the scripture. As soon as they see it, that makes it easy for me to now go into our identity and then go into that we have to keep the law. When I'm done doing this, they are most likely not going to keep the law, but at least I've tried. But these are not my relatives. They are not my relatives. They are in the Catholic Church. And I'm like, let me, I'm going to try to see if I can get them to see who we are and that we have to keep the law. I'll probably fail. I'm not talking about people like that. The reason why I brought these people up is to just give you an example that there are some people that you meet, it is better not to bring up the law at all. There are some people that you run into, it's better not to even talk about the law. Why? Because if you talk about the law, you guys will start arguing. So even if you want to share with them, you take it easy. You don't want to start coming out. That's why it's always good to start with our identity. Whether you're in America, whether you're in Africa, whenever you're discussing these things, always start with our identity. The person you're talking to can never understand what you're saying if you do not start with our identity. Because if you just start saying that we have to keep the law, they will just simply think of Jesus. Well, Jesus died on the cross. We are under grace. That's how they're going to be seeing it. And you don't want that. That's why it's important for you to always start with our identity. Because the scripture was written based on our identity. So, but this is for outsiders. Again, remember, I'm talking about your loved one, your relatives. Okay? If you have an opportunity, you guys are talking, you're laughing, and you're everything. Start that conversation. Explain yourself, express yourself, and that's it. You know, that's all. That's all. There's no big deal there. Who knows what happens, you know? They might start asking you a question. But again, you're doing this for you. You're doing this for you because once you express yourself, you're not going to be worried about what they think about you anymore. Whether you like it or not, we are human beings. We have feelings. We are human beings and we have feelings. And we don't like it when people talk about us, like as I said before. So it's better for us to control the narrative, control what is being said about us by explaining what's going on. Okay, so does anybody have any question, my brothers and sisters, based on this? What I'm sharing with you is a very simple thing, which, by the way, you don't have to do. You don't have to do this. If you choose not to express yourself, that's fine too. So this is not a commandment. There is no law that says you must express yourself. So this is simply an encouragement, because I know it's going to be much, much better if you have the opportunity to do it. In most cases, you may not even have opportunity. If the person comes to your house, you might have opportunity. Depends on the environment. It depends on, it depends. The way it is for you may not be the way it is for me. But if you do have that opportunity, express yourself. Nobody can do it better than you. That's what I'm trying to say. Does anybody have any question, my brothers and sisters? All right. So if you happen to watch this online and you do have any question, you're more than welcome to contact me. More than welcome to ask questions. I pray that Yah will strengthen us, because this is not an easy journey. This is not an easy journey. This is definitely a very difficult journey. It's not easy, but these are little steps we can take to make it easier. Especially when you're dealing with relatives. For outsiders, you may not care about what they say or what they think, but for relatives, you might care. So all praises to the Most High. Does anybody have any question, any outside question, whatever? Feel free to ask. If not, we're going to go ahead and close. I give the Most High all the glory and all the honor for opening our eyes and for giving us these wisdoms that we need. We really, really need these wisdoms to navigate these last days we're living in and be able to deal with people in a way that will make life a lot much easier for us. So all praises to our Heavenly Father.
Thank you for your interest in this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us through WhatsApp. You can call us or send us a message. You can also email us at lawstogod@gmail.com. Check out our website at www.lawstogodskingdom.com. Download our mobile app from the Android store. Search for Laws to God app. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for Laws to God. Don't forget, you can also use Skype to call us. Just download Skype on your phone and search for Laws to God. If you are in South Africa and you need a congregation to worship with, give us a call. For more information that we don't have here on YouTube, please download our app and check out our website, www.lawstogodskingdom.com. Help us spread this truth by sharing this video on your social media.